Dolley Madison. No. Not the one where she saves George Washington's portrait when the British are coming in the War of 1812. The one where she sets up the daughters of one of her enslaved servants to get captured because her son has gambling debts? I didn't think so. Welcome back to another episode of Fashion Meets History with Domii Davis. In this series, Black women behind the first ladies, we're taking a deep dive into the Black women, the Black enslaved women behind some of the first ladies of the United States before the likes of Elizabeth Keckley with Mary Todd Lincoln, and even Anne Lowe with Jackie Kennedy. Obviously, the story of Martha Washington and her enslaved seamstress, Ona Judge, was inspiring. Inspiring because Ona ran away and took the initiative to take her freedom back as a woman, as a person. The story of Dolley Madison and Sukey is a little bit different. Let's get into it. To set the scene, Martha Washington set the tone of first ladies being elegant, being posh, but not overly so like the French, and not as upper crust as the English, because we did split from them, so we are different. So we're a little bit more rugged, but like cute rugged, sexy rugged, right? We're American. And because Martha set this tone, the next first lady, Abigail Adams, who was not a fashionista, her fashion was regular. She dressed for the times, but nothing extravagant. She and John Adams as like a unit were not into excess anyway, even more so than like Martha and George Washington. So she just looked nice, she looked presentable, she looked polished for, state affairs and being the first lady. Then we get to Thomas Jefferson. And of course, as we know, Tom really spent the bulk of his presidency in a relationship with Sally Hemings, which is a different set of series. His wife was deceased. So the next first lady is Dolley Madison, the wife of the fourth president of the United States, James Madison. Fun facts about Dolley. Dolley was born a Quaker. So she also was not born into a lush, wealthy, elitist lifestyle like Martha Washington or even that of Thomas Jefferson's wife before she passed away, when she married James Madison, who was her second husband. Now, she and James did not have any children, but she did have a son with her first husband. That will be important, so save that pocket of knowledge for later. They get married. He's a little bit older. He's a wealthy Virginia planter. She becomes this Washingtonian political socialite. And eventually, she becomes First Lady. And she is most famous for the War of 1812, when the White House is burning. She goes and saves George Washington's portrait. And that's the famous story that we all know about, cute little Dolley Madison. After James stops being president and after James dies, good old Dolley at Montpelier, she and her son kind of sort of squander the Madison money. Dolley, because she likes nice things. She's a socialite. She wants to keep up with the appearances and the parties and the life that she's accustomed to living. However, her husband, the person who makes the money, is not there to make the money. And in this time period where you would depend on your son to then bankroll, your lifestyle, the son kind of is terrible. He's just a low gambling addict. He takes his stepdad's money and just, at the slot machines, if you will. And this forces Dolley Madison to start selling off property. And of course, in this day and age, property equals people, Black people. And so here enters Sukey. Now, Sukey is referenced in some historical letters of Dolley Madison, where she's referred to as kind of Dolley's right hand, as far as like a maidservant, a seamstress, just like the top tier, like ladies' maid if you weren't an enslaved person type of vibe. So she's very invaluable to Dolley Madison. Also important. Important because when Dolley Madison starts to look for property to sell off to alleviate her and her son's debts, she goes to her most valued enslaved servant, Sukey, who dresses her, is the seamstress, makes things for her. Because let's connect the dots here, right? Dolley is low-key impoverished. So how is she maintaining the look of an elite socialite? Sukey is going and doing the work. She's remaking old dresses. She's taking fabrics from other things and refashioning it to fit the times. Think the Gone with the Wind scene where Mamie makes that beautiful dress out of the curtains. It's that type of vibe. And in exchange for all of this hard work that Sukey is doing for keeping up the facade and maintaining Dolley's grandeur as a political socialite and social elite, she sells this woman's children. She sells this woman's sons until the only child that's left of Sukey's is her daughter. And we can surmise that the daughter was probably working like as a seamstress or like in housework and things like that, similar to her mother, but it's not fully documented. And here's where the story gets, in my opinion, very, very dark. Dolley and her son, again, running up those debts. They just can't seem to go back to living a simple life, even if they tried. They need to sell more property. And instead of just being honest, because you're already in a power imbalance, you are not this woman's employer, you are this woman's owner. Instead of just being honest, the right thing to do and saying, look, your daughter's gotta go. She concocts a plan to have this woman's daughter kidnapped at a market when she sends her out to go get food. How diabolical is that? I mean, really. We are praising this woman for saving George Washington's portrait, and she is setting up kidnapping plots to take enslaved women's children at the grocery store. Anyway, the Lord was clearly on the side of Sukey's daughter because Sukey's daughter gets a win that it's a little suspicious at the market, and she escapes the slave catchers that were sent to capture her. She evades them. She hides away. There was another man who used to work for the Madisons, and he escaped from Montpelier. He put together like this little band of escaped slaves, the pre-Underground Railroad, and they are able to charter a vessel that's going to take them away. Dolley and friends get a hold of this information, and they go and they are able to stop the vessel from leaving. All of these escaped enslaved people are then taken to jails around the DC area, like Baltimore, which is where Sukey's daughter was kept in Baltimore, imprisoned until somebody could pay the fine to get her out, but they are enslaved people, so they are not getting paid. Because Dolley is upset that Scooby-Doo and the gang uncovered her plan, do you know that she goes and she sells Sukey? She sells Sukey because the daughter got away. So now you're broke, you don't have no clothes, and you're a horrible person. She sells Sukey to a prominent family in Washington, D.C., and we never hear about Sukey after that. Fortunately, Sukey's daughter was able to become free and leave the prison in Baltimore. An abolitionist group raised enough money to buy and purchase her freedom, and Sukey's daughter was able to live her life as a free Black woman. And that is the story of the Black women behind Dolley Madison. This has been a crazy episode of Fashion Meets History with Domii Davis. But if you like what you see, stay tuned for the next First Lady in the series, Sarah